Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. I'm your co-host, Peter V.S. Bond. I'm also the Vice President of Retail Strategy at Power Reviews. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host. He is an e-commerce luminary. He's an entrepreneur. He is the Tom to my Jerry. He's the Woody to my Buzz Lightyear. He is the Mario to my Luigi. His team is also 3.5 games behind my team in Major League Baseball. Ouch, Sri, ouch. Didn't think I was going to come at you with that. He's so famous, he goes by only one name. Everybody, please join me in welcoming Sri. Sri, how you doing?
Peter, thank you for the grand welcome. But today, I don't have a rebuttal because on the 21st of August, Friday at 3:10 p.m. before the 4:05 game, the Yankees have dropped 3 of 3 to the Rays, 6 of 7 to the Rays for the season, and the Dodgers are genuinely 3.5 games ahead. But it's a 60-game season. And there's a World Series between the National League and American League. And this year, I sincerely hope and pray, it's the Dodgers and the Yankees.
Oh,
because I cannot wait. I cannot. And there will be a virtual watch party in CPG Guys land.
For our audience, you just need to understand this podcast is really not about educating all of you. It's just for Sri and I to give barbs at each other. But anyhow, let's move beyond that. Before we get into this, I want to remind our audience that if you want to engage with us, all of our content, links to LinkedIn, our podcasts, our videos, our profiles. All you have to do is go to cpgguys.com and it'll take you there. So, Sri, I'm excited about today's conversation. We are always looking to span the spectrum of omnichannel, and I came across an e-commerce readiness white paper that was produced by a company called SGSco. And I know of them because I know a couple of people that work there, including their CEO who used to work at IRI. I started inquiring about this, and I thought, wow, this could be really something. I know I shared it with you. This could be something that we'd love to talk about. So I reached out, and I was introduced to Hollie Gonzales, who's one of our guests today. So we have two people from SGSco, and Sri, we're in the President's Club because they're both presidents. So
hidden in your conversation, there's a little message and a little bit of advice to the world at large, and that is the power of networking. Y'all didn't know each other a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
You reached out, y'all hustled. A few weeks later, here we are. We got an actual podcast with Hollie, not just Hollie, but with the President's Club, Rob, who's a distinguished member as well. And that's how the industry will transform. So Hollie and Rob, thanks for coming on board.
So with that, I'm going to actually throw it over to Rob. Please introduce yourself and let us know what you do at the organization.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rob McCarthy. I lead the what we call our Design and Digital Center of Excellence. So within our company, SGSco, which Hollie will talk a little bit about, we have a very extensive global design team that is very digitally focused. We do everything from 2D and 3D design, but also a lot of computer-generated imagery and injecting CGI, and that is in particular relevant to the conversation we're having today about engaging consumers in e-commerce. My background, so I'm talking to you today as an agency guy. I spent almost my entire career until now as a client. So my last gig was VP of Marketing for Bud Light at Anheuser-Busch, prior to that Budweiser. So you will get from me 100% consumer perspective from both sides of the fence.
Awesome. And Hollie, welcome. Please tell us about yourself and the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having us. And I'm glad that our white paper caught y'all's attention. That was our intent. Obviously trying to help a number of CPGs be ready for e-commerce. And so glad to know that it got noticed. I'm Hollie Gonzales, and I'm the president of the Americas for SGS. I've been with the company for about 5 years, and what I'm responsible for day to day is really the commercial relationships. SGS has the privilege of serving a number of world-class organizations, from retail to tier 1 CPGs like Procter & Gamble, Kraft, Anheuser-Busch, to even some of the smaller guys, like the Busch Brothers, the regional brands like Land O'Lakes. We cross all industries, Owens, the home improvement industry, pharmaceutical, consumer products goods, retail, private label, et cetera. What we primarily do, we have a very long history. We're one of those companies and industries that not everybody knows exist, but we've been around forever, 90 plus years. And what we are is we're a company that enables the commercialization of packaging and content for consumer goods companies. We are the guys that actually produce your art. We're the ones that actually get it ready and capable of being printed. We actually create packaging innovations. And now with the omni-channel pressure and where growth is kind of coming from, we've really pivoted as an organization over the past 5 years to develop kind of a seamless end-to-end process that helps our clients develop their packaging content for not only physical packaging, but also their digital content at the same time.
Well, that's thank you both for letting our audience know who you are and about your company. If you've listened to any of our previous episodes, I think Sheree will agree with me that we consider the packages in the consumer packaged goods equation to be the most underutilized real estate for communicating brand value. It is the one thing that some people buy in store, some people buy online. At the end of the day, they're both buying the same product, and thinking about how to take advantage of that real estate to communicate the content to engage consumers, we think that's great. So that's why we wanted you on today.
That's great that you say that, because that's actually a main ethos of our organization, is that we think that packaging is very underrated in the marketing mix. And in an omni-channel world, it's actually the one consistent marketing element across all the pieces of your portfolio and program. And so we think it's more and more important and critical that companies really understand the power of their packaging and the role it plays across both the digital and physical shelves.
That gets us right into the first question, which I'm going to throw at you, Hollie.
Sure.
Exactly how important is e-commerce brand content for CPGs to succeed in the omni-channel and e-commerce world?
Good question. I would tell you that in the CPG space, e-commerce has really been the fastest growing channel. It's been growing consistently by double digits for really the past 5 years, but it still remained a relatively small percentage of the all commodity volume for most CPG companies. So I think that while it was a growing channel and a lot of companies were getting on board to their digital journeys, the typical companies that tend to lead first into new spaces were doing that. I think that everybody was kind of looking at digital as something that they could catch up to. It was important, but it wasn't necessarily a business imperative. Then March hit, and digital has become a business imperative. If you've been watching any of the headlines and the impact of COVID, really overnight shopping behaviors have absolutely accelerated almost what was predicted to be about a 20-year journey. And you see numbers coming out. I think Albertsons reported that they saw a 276% growth rate in digital in the second quarter of the year. Kroger reported that they had a 93% jump in digital. And so overnight, there's no longer this question of, are we just going to buy books and clothes and hard goods on the e-commerce, or are we really going to buy our yogurt, our milk, our produce, etc.? The answer is yes. We're going to buy everything via e-commerce channel. And the clients that weren't really far on their digital journey, they actually lost out in that March overnight switch on the part of the consumer. So for us, we've believed for a long time that this digital journey is an imperative for clients, that they've got to really get best of class at their content on the digital shelf, the same way that they've developed the best of class strategies for the physical shelf over the past 50 plus years. And those clients that are behind, they need to catch up, because the consumer is not going to return to normal shopping patterns based on all of the analysis that you see.
Rob, first of all, Holly, before I go to the next question, I want to thank you for using a word in there, and it's called all commodity volume. Because
We love those
with today's digital natives, when I use the word ACV, having grown up like Peter in the IRI ranks back in the days, like we're talking 2+ decades and change here, I just lose people when I say ACV, and we have a lot of fun when we can use terminology like that. And that leads me to Rob as well. Thank you for using the word quickie, because you took me back to 2007 when I had the opportunity to actually build PepsiCo's first digital asset management system. And we were using Quickie at Quaker up in Chicago. And that resulted in us building brand books for brand managers, brand directors, and brand VPs to kind of walk around with, people to tell stories. So man, that is serious nostalgia. So going back to content and the digital journey, I couldn't agree more with y'all. I've always felt the word e-commerce is actually misused because it leads to the connotation of exactly what you said, Holly, which is it large enough in my relative scheme of sales or my turnover or revenue? For me, this e-commerce journey is 80% marketing, 20% selling, and that 80% marketing is anchored of two keywords, SEO and SEM. We'll remove SEM from this particular question. So Rob, on the SEO side, which is all content and the quality of how you produce the content, how does a brand or a CPG company, a vendor, a manufacturer, a client, call it what you may, know what is it that they need exactly to be able to sell effectively or to be able to communicate and win that war for attention with the consumer?
Sri, I'll actually start old school with you. I'm pretty sure in Philip Kotler's first basic marketing textbook, there was no mention of SEO, but the way to succeed in SEO is
the 4 Ps.
4 Ps. So it really is, you could say, depends on your objectives, but your objectives in omnichannel needs to include every channel. And it's really about treating your brand in the space digitally the way you want your brand to be consumed by and engaged with consumers. So it really is about back to basics. And if you think about the specifics, of course, there's a basic standard pack shot bundle that every brand needs. And then you have the opportunity to add content no matter which marketplace you're working in. You can add content to that at varying levels. And we've got all kinds of studies that would tell us, without even considering quality of communication or quality of visuals, if you have more bullets, you sell more. If you have more content, you sell more. And if you have more reviews, you sell more. So that's at least 50% plus on each of those. And that's just more. Now let's talk about better. If you have better content, if you have better visuals, if you have more engaging overall presence and positive reviews, then you sell more. So I think it really starts with the basic visuals. So GS1 has a standard pack shot bundle, 11 images that every brand needs, but then you really need to treat the product page as an advertising, just a mosaic for you to communicate and engage with consumers. And, we've got varying partners and clients that are doing this more and more and more. And we're learning a lot about what works, what doesn't work. But the basic idea is to treat it like an advertising vehicle.
Yeah, Rob. So that's kind of like part 2 of this very same question. And I see Peter smiling here because we're going to have a lot of fun in this topic today.
You mentioned Phil Kotler.
Yes.
I'm so geeking out right now. This is awesome.
Marketing 5104 with Professor Khrushchev, 1996.
That's what he talked about reviews. Geez, that's one of my favorite topics.
So the simple kind of offshoot question that comes to mind, Rob, for you on this one is, your PDP, your product detail page, is your brand equity flagship communication vehicle with the consumer. And I just heard you say more is better. So, get more graphics in there, get more videos in there, below the fold, above the fold, all these wonderful definitions have popped up. Why on planet Earth, I beg, why do brand marketers not get that in 2020? Why do we have average and below average user experience on product detail pages? Why do retailers not get it?
That's a really good question. And I think part of the answer is, well, The answer is simple. It's really hard. So if you think about, you have to create the content, you have to curate and organize the content and the data and make sure it's accurate. Then you need to get it onto a platform where the retailer can access it. Then you need the retailer to access it, and you need them to access the right information. Then you need it not just accessed, you need it uploaded into their platform. So it's, I think more and more, Sri, brand leaders, marketers are appreciating it and understanding it. It's hard and they're frustrated. And I think that's a lot of what we spend our time with, both our partners on the distribution side, but also just in terms of back and forth with clients, is how to bridge all of those gaps to allow it to happen. So if you do everything right, there's still so much noise in the system that makes it that much more difficult.
Rob, I actually couldn't agree more with you that it's hard, but putting 15,000 trucks as a fleet on the street for Frito-Lay is hard too, and they conquered it. And surviving and running and succeeding, 276% growth in e-com and Albertsons, Hollie, at thin, if not neutral margins, is also very hard. My humble theory on this one is, if you want to get this flagship moment right, it's a capital investment. And that capital investment is going to turn your brand P&L topsy-turvy. And that's what's holding people back. Well, guess what? They have no choice now. Peter, I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, that's fine. Actually, what you just said, Robin, thank you, leads into my next question for Hollie. So let's say they have created all of this wonderful content. I'm sure you can just send the same content to all retailers because they all have the same accepting, they all have the same type of platform, right? And all that content plugs and plays into each retailer the same way, right?
Great question, and it dovetails right off of what Sri, where he was going and his working theory on why they're not getting this right. I'll ask it in physical terms. Peter, do manufacturers create a product and send it to all retailers and have the exact same planogram, the exact same pricing, the exact same promotional strategy? The answer is no, right? We think nothing of the fact that you produce a certain product for Costco that is completely different than the product version that you create for convenience store versus what you create for the dollar channel. But when it comes to e-com and omni-channel, for some reason, and I don't know if it's because it's technology, but there's almost this mental model that says, I should just be able to push a button. Now I've got my pack shots and I should just push a button. And why isn't this on Walmart's site? And why isn't this on Amazon's site? And why isn't what I did for Walmart work exactly like it needs to for Amazon? And the answer is
Hollie, you're giving me goosebumps.
Good. Because I think you're right. I think that we're behind. I think CPGs are behind because when they looked at how to resource the digital channel, they just said, put a person in charge of it. And they didn't necessarily think about things like, what does your pricing team look like? What does your marketing team look like? What does your product look like that you're going to be selling through the e-commerce channel? And so the short answer is that no, the e-commerce retailers are not the same. Amazon doesn't want the exact same content that you're doing for Walmart, just as much as Kroger doesn't want the exact same product, the exact same price, the exact same promotional strategy that you're giving to Albertsons. They want points of difference. And if you're not going to give them points of difference, then you're not really giving them a reason to attract a consumer by selling your product. And so in the technical world, what this means is, back to Rob's point of all the different types of content that you need to produce, you actually not only have to produce a multitude of content, you also have to be able to curate it specifically for the different retailers, and you have to be able to distribute it in a way that the different retailers get what they need if you actually effectively want to sell and not just flash your front page images of your product.
Indeed, content that converts, which leads me, Rob, back to you with a question on another favorite topic, innovation. And I feel launching innovation in 2020 plus is the art of getting your digital shelf right first and then your physical shelf. Because I believe we are in a new era post-COVID, where in NACDS 2021, retailers are actually going to ask manufacturers, you want to bring a product into the store shelf, please bring data with it and show me that you've actually tested it. And D2C becomes your vehicle, but you can't really communicate without this amazing digital shelf. So if a new brand, a new SKU, a line extension, et cetera, as an innovation is coming to market, how can you get all of this content in time? Given retailer asks for it 6 weeks ahead, another one is 90 days, some are 4 weeks, your own channel is probably 48 hours given all the last minute work that goes on. Like, are there tools, technologies, and things of this nature that can make this easy and one can really get this right and syndicate it across the board?
Yeah, it's something we work with our clients, our partners all the time. And really, if you think about it, there's two ways to get your content. There's a traditional way. You can photograph your products, you can photograph them in environments and do all of that work, but that presumes you have a product, that presumes it's produced, and it presumes it's right. In our process, in the full graphics process, we're the experts in creating the graphic art file, which eventually ends up on the physical pack, which gets printed and shipped to store. What we've been able to do with most of our global clients now is move that well forward by using computer-generated imagery. So we will create a wireframe, essentially a skeleton of Shrek, and then we take our art file, which is Shrek's skin and clothes, and we'll attach it to the product and create all of the content. So we can move digital content in a speed and in a way that gets to market 7 weeks faster than it comes off the line. And if you think about it, that would be at least 9 or 10 weeks faster than it would take to come off the line, get it produced, and get it done. So that is just for the product pack shot. And then once we've got that asset, it becomes incredibly powerful to be able to create the additional content that the brand needs, not just in e-commerce, but for its digital platforms and even for your traditional advertising.
7 weeks faster, huh?
7 weeks prior to in market. And I'd say that's the number we're okay with. That's our minimum. We can do it a lot faster.
Awesome. Rob, you're actually saying that you can produce the product display page content as an outflow of the design work you're already doing on the packaging. Is that what I'm saying?
I'll give you a live example, Peter, just to add to what Rob's saying there. So Kroger is a really important customer of ours. We've been partners with them for over 20 years. We do all of their private label packaging work and have had a great partnership with them. Well, a few years ago, actually several years ago now, when they kind of got faced with the daunting task of, their e-commerce team came to them and said, hey, we need pack shots. We need all the private label pack shots. And so, of course, in a traditional mental model, they started thinking about how are we going to photograph all of these private label SKUs and get them over to our e-com. And so we kind of walk them through and like, look, by the time you actually cycle through the 30,000 SKUs you have and get them all photographed, you're going to be outdated. You're going to have already changed the pack on something. So you've got to have a smarter model that actually allows you to produce the digital content at the same time you're producing the physical content. And so if you think about a packaging label, it really is a digital art file. And that's kind of the secret sauce to what SGS does is we produce the digital art file that goes to a printer and becomes your physical packaging. Well, that same digital art file can become your digital content with the aid of the 3D process. And it allows you to build in line in your existing commercialization process. It allows you to build both digital and physical content at the same time. So Kroger is a great example of how they were able to speed it up. And I think in their case, to your point, Rob, I think they were about 10 weeks ahead of physical product being at shelf, which enabled them to market more. They were able to do more with social media way before the product actually hit the physical store.
How awesome, Hollie. You just talked about the package in quite a bit of detail out there. I know in my own startup, ZenFuel, I'll be using QR codes to communicate. And with technology in the back end, those messages will change consistently with the same QR code. How important is it for a brand today when they create packaging to remember the use of a QR code or even a technology like Zapper?
Funny that you should mention Zapper, and I just used Kroger. So we think it's critically important, whichever technology platform you choose to use, whether it's the QR code, Digimark, Zapper. I'll go back to my example on Kroger. Kroger actually, at the same time as they were doing these redesigns and building digital content, they were looking for solutions in that area. And we actually helped them integrate Zapper into all of their packaging. And what that's allowed them to do, there's a couple of reasons that we encourage clients to move to augmented packaging, because it's back to the point that Peter made earlier in the call about, packaging is underutilized. It's your biggest vehicle for engaging the consumer. They may see your commercial, they may drive past your billboard, they may flash past your social media, but what sits in their home day in, day out that they pass by is the packaging. And the packaging is what they hold on to longest in all of your marketing content. And so what you don't want is you don't want to miss any opportunity for that packaging content to be dynamic and to be able to communicate with the client or the consumer in real time, in a real way. There's a lot of studies that show that augmented packaging, whether it's with Zapper, Digimark, et cetera, that you can actually increase consumption. You can target promotions at the right time. In the e-com channel in particular, you're not engaging with them at shelf anymore. They're picking up your product at their doorstep, and then it's in their pantry. And augmented packaging can actually be the way that you teach them how to use the product. It can be how you actually create a greater connection with the consumer that leads to greater loyalty as you go along. So I think it's going to reach a point where it's a packaging necessitative. Today, you have to go to the Zapper app and scan. You have to go to the QR app and scan. The technology in your phone and your cameras, it already exists, where it can, and it'll become a part of sort of the normal technology. Your camera will just move across stuff and know whether something is live or not. And so if you don't have dynamic packaging that's integrated, it's going to be another area that you find yourself behind on sooner rather than later.
Hollie, I couldn't agree more. It drives me crazy when I see so much wasted real estate on a product package. And I think, like I know Sri does, wow, how I could use that to engage with my consumers so effectively. Hey, Rob, do you think CPGs are going to need to develop specific packaging for e-commerce? And if so, like, what are some examples of what they might want to be doing?
Yeah, it connects to what Hollie's saying about the actual physical pack being a part of the total ecosystem. So it's really about the consumer experience, right? If you think we're talking e-commerce specifically now, but e-commerce eventually ends up with brand in hand or product in hand. And it starts from your search through your exploration on the platform. You're seeing digital representations of the product. And then you finally press ship or buy and into ship, and then you wait. But then your experience continues. And in my case, the experience includes my dog barking when the Amazon truck comes up. And then that's when the unboxing experience comes to life. And if you think about it, every one of those touch points is part of the brand experience. And I think what we're realizing now too is brands still matter. So the most important thing on Amazon is not just price. Otherwise, you would see every one of the top sellers would be the lowest price. And data would suggest this as well. The consumer experience is still 66% of the buying criteria into what brand, what product is purchased. And that goes right through. So to your point about, do you need specific? I would say that's probably an ROI decision, but it could very well pay out. So having a brand take advantage of the unboxing experience when they know a big part of their sales is going to be delivered to the front door and then opened in the home, and you can truly surprise and delight the consumer in a way that is memorable and creates those brand marks for you in the future. I think the answer has to be yes. And we're working with a lot more clients that do it. I can tell you, I just bought a new pair of golf shoes. And on the bottom of the box, it had a disclaimer that said, don't throw this box away. Keep it. And guess what? I did. It's like, I felt bad. Like, they spent so much time on their box. They want me to keep it. I am going to keep it. And now I'm using it.
You know, I can say this. I recently helped one of my clients at Power Reviews analyze all the reviews on Amazon for their category. And it was like the light bulb went off and they saw that one of the key themes that was most associated with the highest rated product in the category was actually the fact that they created a frustration-free package solution. And that's what he took back to his brand people. He said, oh my God, this is what we need to be focused on.
And if you think even frustration-free, it's kind of, it's a negative, right? Or how do you avoid this negative of frustration? But, you could also call it, joy-enhancing packaging, right? It's like, how do you bring consumer joy into the experience? Part of that is by eliminating the frustration, but then take it a step further. How do you add to the experience? How do you add to building your brand? And we're spending our design team, both structurally and from a 2D standpoint, spends a lot of time with clients now starting to think about how do we make a difference at that moment.
So Rob, frustration-free is one thing because it enhances the user experience of the consumer receiving the product and just makes it easy to touch and feel the product like they would on a store shelf. What about sustainability? Sustainability is obviously, this is not a new word, and many vendors, companies, manufacturers kind of committed to this a long time ago, but e-commerce is actually creating less of a sustainable environment if you thought about it with the use of several products. What's your general advice out there from a sustainability standpoint for any retailer out there that's in the business of e-commerce and shipping?
Yeah, it's the total life cycle of the product, total carbon footprint is critically important. So we've got a number of briefs in hand. Our team at Marks has a number of briefs in hand exactly on that today. And if you think about it, it's part of frustration free. How do you get the weight down? Can you ship in your own container? Those are all they help on the cost. They're P&L positive, and they're positive for the planet. And I mean, as you would know from your CPG days, a lot of sustainability efforts don't have to be margin negative. They can be, in many cases, cost reduction because weight equals cost, whether that's weight in plastics or even weight in pulp. And you can reduce those and still deliver a positive consumer experience on top of, I guess, the brand enhancement of being conscious, being environmentally conscious, and being a brand that cares.
So Hollie, we're in the middle of this pandemic. And as we think about this shift in the balance of the e-commerce, the omni-channel spectrum rather, what has this meant to the overall marketing effort that brands have to put into connecting with consumers?
Good question. I'll take a stab at answering, but I'll probably then throw it to my counterpart over here who's got the marketing background. I'm the sales guy, so here's the way I think about it: is there were 4 big trends that were impacting CPGs going into the pandemic. One of them, you guys just talked about, sustainability, right? It's on the top of everybody's to-do list and innovation list and how to get there. The other, this whole podcast is centered around omni-channel. And then the other 2 that were on everybody's radar was really around transparency, product transparency, as consumers became much more conscious about what ingredients are in their product, where those ingredients are sourced from, and really turning an eye to voting with their dollars with more thoughtfully sourced products. And then the last one is something that, again, I think that e-commerce has actually enabled, which is product personalization, kind of that recognition that, hey, we don't all like the exact same flavors, and that we prefer our preferences be individually met. As the pandemic hit, the interesting thing is I think that for 3 of the 4, it actually accelerated the speed at which CPGs and the role that marketing is going to play in moving companies to solving for them, and that's sustainability, omni-channel, and transparency. If anything, I think that the pandemic has added, rocket fuel to all three of those trends and initiatives. On product personalization, I think we're probably going to see a little bit of a boomerang. I think that you saw kind of an immediate focus on supply chain. You saw an immediate focus on, I don't care what kind of paper towels you get, just as long as there's paper towels on the shelf, you're welcome. But I think that's going to subside. And I don't think that consumers are going to go back to limited choices. So you may see a little bit of softening around product personalization, but I think the really smart companies, if you look at all of the past recessions, even the most recent one back in 2008, the companies that actually grew coming out of the recession were the ones that leaned in and actually added choice and extended their brands and actually added to their portfolios, not the companies that reduced their portfolios by 10, 15%. Those companies actually retracted in the recession at the same rate, if not greater than the recession itself. So Rob, anything you want to add on the marketing side? You probably have a better perspective on that.
Yeah, I think I go back. If you think about total brand experience and engaging with consumers, you truly have the opportunity to drive the purpose that is behind your brand. So the more you can engage consumers with your true brand meaning, and if you can convert them to be advocates, that's the ultimate objective.
And so that leads us, when you have fun, time just flies by. I don't know where the 45 minutes went, but it's gone. And that leads us to the last question for this podcast. And it has to do with what's next. And that is my exact question for you, Rob. What's next for e-commerce, technology, packaging? Like, what should we look forward to in the next few months and years to come?
I'd say as consumers, we should really look forward to and expect brands to deliver an experience at our front door. So it's not really acceptable for a brand that you've invested in, to arrive at your door that's disappointing. So I think that's happening now, but it needs to happen way more. And if you think about brands engaging with consumers online, it's possible now to have a truly augmented reality experience with a brand online. So we acquired a company, Armstrong White, that was doing CGI, computer-generated imagery, for the auto industry for years. And it was well ahead of the auto industry, just based on the issues that it went through in previous decade, had to find new ways to create content without flying all over the world and shooting cars on mountaintops. So they started doing it like Hollywood does it. We've now brought that, as we talked about earlier, to our brand partners in CPG. So we have a number of CPG brand partners that their entire portfolio of products exists in pure digital imagery. So exists as data. So we can take that data, bring that data to life on a marketplace, in a platform, and allow the consumer to interact with it. And I think it's possible now. It's not happening now because the platforms and the infrastructure to be able to handle it would be challenging. But if you think as a consumer, the more senses you can bring into that experience and the buying experience online, the more you're going to be able to inform your purchase decision, which will in the end lead to happier and more engaged consumers. So I think that is next, maybe not as next as tomorrow, but it's certainly possible today and will be possible in the future.
Well, I want to remind our audience that if they want to learn more about our podcast and reach any of our content, they can simply go to CPGGUYS.com. And if you really love us, we would greatly appreciate it if you went and gave us a rating on Apple. So go to tinyurl.com/Apple CPG podcast. Hollie and Rob, I really want to thank you for joining us today. This is yet another angle that we think our audience will want to know about in terms of the omni-channel approach to growing their business. If people want to learn more about your business or the white paper I referred to, Hollie, where should they go?
Yeah, thank you both for having us. We really enjoyed it, enjoyed the conversation. Best way to probably find us is to go to our website at www.sgsco.com. We're also on LinkedIn. The white paper readiness is out there. It's a readiness survey, so you can kind of figure out where your CPG is on the digital journey. Obviously, you can reach out to really, and you can reach us through those two mechanisms, and we're glad to connect with anyone that we could help in terms of building their content and things.
Thank you so much. And I want to leave with thanking my co-host Shri, as always, for joining me on this journey. We do this as much to entertain ourselves as we do to inform our audience. Shri, I hope you have a good weekend. Maybe the Yankees can pick up a game here or there, and I do hope to see you in the postseason.
Rob and Hollie, thank you for coming on board and sharing your wisdom on packaging and the digital shelf with us. Unfortunately, the Yankees-Mets series for this weekend has been postponed due to COVID, so it's going to be a long wait until Tuesday until the next series pops up. And thank you, folks.
So much. We appreciate it.
All right, everyone, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the CPG Guys. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.